Hey there, welcome to another episode of ATSFE Battlefield Walkaround. That's ATS Fully Engaged, our Battlefield Walkarounds. That's where we go through a product from Critical Hit. In this case, it'll be Bloody Buna. We'll talk about, what you get in the product, what you don't get in the product. We'll talk in a little bit of detail around the counters and the scenarios, the Battlefield Walkaround, the actual one that comes in the thing, and the map, and just kind of give you an idea of what you're going to get and what we may or may not think about it. So this is Bloody Buna, the historical situation. It's November, December 1942, so it's a year on from Pearl Harbor. The U.S. and Aussie troops are butting heads with the Japanese in New Guinea along the coastline of Buna, or whatever it is. Not sure how you say it. So what are you going to get in your little Ziploc? It's actually a big Ziploc. You're going to get 20 map panels, and you're going to see what that looks like in a minute. You're going to get 11 scenarios on 6 cards, one AFV card, a Stewart one, so you do get a tank, and you get a 2-page Battlefield Walkaround. So what doesn't come in the module? What I could see was the scenarios called for some Japanese Type 98 20B heavy AA guns and some Type 97 81D heavy mortars that are not on the counter sheets provided. You get 3 half sheets of counters, and some suspect markers are also listed in the scenarios that you don't get. I think those are probably in, so this is a follow-on from the GONA module, and I know the suspect markers were included in there, so those other markers or counters were probably in that module, or if you have another Japanese module, you probably have at least the heavy mortals, if not the anti-aircraft guns. So that's the only thing I could really find that was missing. You may need a few Aussie counters, but they're really only in a couple scenarios, so if you have some British counters, you can get through that. So speaking of counters, let's take a look at what we got here. Not really too much remarkable. You got a half sheet of Aussies. Sounds bad, run-of-the-mill Commonwealth counters. You get a sheet of the Japanese infantry. Again, the run-of-the-mill, general, typical stuff that you probably have, 15 of those of. Some of the cooler things that you might see on here: some 200B artillery markers or counters. Some 140B artillery counters. You got these 127B AA guns. What else we got in here? All these AA guns, because clearly they were afraid of attacks. But then you got these 70D howitzers and these 75D howitzers. So lots and lots of Japanese firepower to come back at you. So oddly enough, you have all those AA guns, and there were exactly 0 scenarios with Allied air power. So there you go. I guess you can use those in an anti-infantry role. As far as those scenarios go, like I said, there's 11 scenarios total. They range from 7 turns to 32. So 32 is the big whopping, the Sons of Bushido. That's the macro scenario, quote unquote, campaign, right? 1, and that's that one, uses the whole map. 4 use roughly half of the map, which is still big, and then the rest use actually kind of really tiny portions of the map, which is interesting. They're all about the U.S. and the Australians attacking the prepared defenses of the Japanese, hence the name Bloody Buna. Lots of blood spilled over that. Otherwise, the scenarios are generally unremarkable, other than, like I said, lots of AA guns and no aircraft. Japanese are pretty much almost always on the defense in these scenarios. So if that's your jam, that's what you're going to get. Like I said, the Battlefield Walkaround is 2 pages long. It's your typical, talks about all the terrain, which is good. Some things to point out, you got in this map, and we'll look at it, you have beach hexes, shallow ocean, lots of paths. There's elephant grass, tons and tons of elephant grass on here. There's rivers and creeks and effluences. There's swamp terrain. There's jungle and deep jungle. There's fords across the rivers and footbridges. The Japanese get a lot of cave dugouts, so you get to play with those rules. There's this interesting thing in here about cleared fire zones from opportunity fire and stuff. I couldn't find those markers, so I'm not sure where they are. Maybe I have them in my kit somewhere. Not entirely sure. So hopefully you got some of those. Like I said, there's Japanese suspect markers which don't come in this module, but in here it even says it's provided in a previous release, which I'm assuming is Gona. One interesting thing is some of the scenarios will call for this pre-game bombardment routine. So, you know, I'm assuming the Allies get to drop some bombardments on those prepared defenses and work through them. So without further ado, let's talk about the map. So the map, like I said, is 20 of the new map panels, which don't get me started. You already know my feelings on map panels. This just highlights it and exacerbates it and shows you the whole reason why I don't like them. Because if you were going to play that full game, let's see how far back can I get. So that is a 7x4 table, and you can see that part of the map doesn't fit. So you're gonna need a big ass table to play the full campaign game. I mean, in all of its glory, obviously I didn't flatten it out or put any plexi on there or anything, but in all of its glory, it's massive, massive, massive game. You've got all this jungle and deep jungle in here with some clearings. This is all crop terrain, but it's all elephant grass, right? You've got the strips, the air strips. That's the new strip. That's I guess presumably the old strip. Yep, it says old strip. Got a little bit of jungle up there, around there. But you notice it's pretty wide open, relatively speaking, along the coast. So some long angle shots for those howitzers. Got some palm groves and stuff in here. Treated like orchards. Check out the orchard rules. Although you're not gonna have to worry about blind hexes here because nothing is higher than level 0. There's a couple hillocks. That's about it. So that might come into play. But it is a massive, massive, massive map, which, don't get me wrong, fantastic to, I think, play on. I think trying to line all these hexes up so they're perfectly aligned, yeah, good luck, and good luck finding that big table. There is no VAT support, unfortunately, at least yet. I can understand why. It's probably a pain to get this scanned in. Anyway, I'm not quite as excited about that. I think the terrain would be very, very fun to play on with these long sight lines and those big guns and everything. Unfortunately, I just don't see it getting to the table because of the aforementioned map issues. So I'm not quite as excited about this one as I am about Wake. Although Wake was also large, at least I think it was more manageable in terms of putting plexi over it and flattening them out. And it was only like 2 map sections wide, so you could get a better chance of flattening them up, or lining them up rather. So that's it. Bloody Buna. Hope you enjoyed it, and game on.